Congratulations, Harry. Glad to see you're not looking at that mirror. Bye. Hello, everybody. To our new listeners, welcome. To our old listeners, welcome back. We are the Perspective Potterheads, Jenny B and Terri T, and we are here to discuss our favorite fandoms, starting with and primarily featuring Harry Potter content. If you like our content, like it, and if you love it, like, share, subscribe, support.
Today, we will be discussing Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Chapter 13, Nicolas Flemel. And while Chapter 13 is our primary focus, we will be discussing all the chapters, all the books, other books. So spoilers ahead. If you haven't read it yet, definitely take a minute, sit down, read it, read along with us. It's fantastic. So, the picture.
The picture. So the last two chapters have been very in your face. It's like Quidditch. They're playing Quidditch.
Yes.
Mirror said, it's the Mirror said. But Nicolas Flamel.
Who is this guy? Because, okay, so thinking back to reading this the first time, I would have been like, Nicolas Flamel. That must be Nicolas Flamel.
Right.
But
after you read the chapter, you know exactly who that is.
Not. Tis Professor Severus Snape.
Going into the Forbidden Forest.
Perfect red herring.
Yes. Oh, he's... and this really sets him up, too.
Yes. And Harry misses a good chunk of the conversation when he gets scared. Mm-hmm. Like, we'll get there, but interesting. Yes. So it really does. Like, what he hears makes Snape seem like the bad guy.
Right. So they are still trying to figure out who Flamel is. They're going to the library. They're pouring through the books. Harry is pretty sure he's read the name somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then my first question is, if he knows he's read it somewhere, why are they just flopping through random books? Go through all of the books that you know that you've read, Harry, which is, according to Hermione, isn't a lot.
Very many. This chapter really sets up a lot of Hermione, which I love. It gives it because we've seen a lot more of Ron. Mm-hmm. Because they've only become friends just a couple chapters ago with Hermione. So we're starting to see more of her character and her personality, and I love it. Mm-hmm. So they've kind of like, they're giving up. They've kind of given up hope on finding Flamel. Mm-hmm. But then Harry has Quidditch practice. So it like shifts gears. Like, okay, we're going to go to Quidditch practice. Yeah. And the Weasley twins are playing around. This is shocker, right?
Right.
And Wood's like, I have a bit of bad news. I can just hear Wood telling him it's a bit of bad news. Snape is going to referee their next Quidditch match. And George falls off his broom, which we had been talking about previously.
But I don't think they were too high up at this point, because everybody is kind of around in the area because they have to hear what Wood is saying. Like, Wood's trying to keep them all together. They're just in the air.
Yeah. So I think that's, I chuckled at that one. So everybody kind of hangs around after Quidditch practice, but not Harry. He's got to go talk to Ron and Hermione.
Right.
And Ron wants Harry to break his leg. I like that one. Hey, you're ill. Pretend to break your leg. Really break your leg. What? And Harry, in true Gryffindor style, says, I'm not backing out. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of a diversion.
Yes, because he's been having these weird dreams. Mm-hmm. And so he's getting himself all into Quidditch to kind of stop the dreams.
Yep.
Which at first in my mind, I was like, why doesn't he just do that in the fifth one? And then I remembered that Umbridge banned him from playing Quidditch, which is possibly why he was getting worse and worse at occlumency, because he didn't have that outlet.
Nice. I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
So I wrote down a question though. Do you think that he is just having vivid dreams, or because he's got Voldemort's Horcrux, is he having memories?
He has it so Harry was he's July, August, September, October. So he's
like just 13, a little over 1.
Yeah. He's like 14 months old.
Yeah.
14-month-old. Like, I do not have, typically you don't remember things that happened when you were 14 months old.
Right.
So I wonder if the Horcrux piece of him is why he's able to remember that.
Yeah, because
Arguably Voldemort was an
because
adult.
it's Voldemort's memory. It's not necessarily Harry's memory.
Interesting.
So,
but while Ron's encouraging him to break his leg,
yeah,
my next note, Ron wants Harry to break his leg, which I think is hilarious.
yes.
What? Neville falls through the portrait hole, like tumbles in. I can just kind of picture this in my head. Poor Neville.
Everybody laughs at him except for Hermione. Like, and when it says everyone except Hermione, I mean, I think that includes Ron and Harry.
Yes,
are laughing at him to
because
a point.
They're 11-year-old boys.
Yeah, but then they start being helpful a little bit after that. So,
and I think like initially, like they don't know what's going on, but Neville's like got his legs glued together and he's like hopping like a bunny. I think it would be kind of comically funny.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're uncomfortable or there's something weird going on, laughing is like kind of a gut reaction. Like when somebody falls down, you laugh at them first and then you help them out.
Right. Yeah.
Because for me, it's either I laugh or I panic. I'm like, oh my God, it happened. So, but they're trying to encourage Neville to stand up to Malfoy because Malfoy did perform that leg locker curse, and that's what happened.
Yes.
And you know, Neville's like, don't do that because Malfoy already told me I'm not brave enough to be in Gryffindor. And Harry's like, you're worth 12 of Malfoy.
Yeah, which
I think
seems to be like the thing that cheers them up the most. Because Hermione tries and Ron tries, but that kind of gives them a little bit of oomph.
Mm-hmm. It's like the sorting cap put you in Gryffindor. Mm-hmm. And give him a chocolate frog because when in doubt, give somebody chocolate.
Yes.
It's my go-to.
It's a very good go-to.
So Neville's going to go to bed, but he says, here, Harry, you collect the cards. Harry's like, oh, it's Dumbledore. The first one I ever got. Flips it over. I found him.
Yes.
Very exciting. And this is the first of many times when Hermione's like, wait, I got this. Hold on. I'm going to the library. Or I'm going to do this. Like she just jets off and they're like, huh?
Right.
I think later on in one of the books, book 5, maybe Ron's like, would it kill her to tell us?
Right.
Maybe it's book 4.
I think it is 5 because I think that's when she actually runs to go see, or maybe it's the end of 4.
It's the end of 4 because she figures out
that Rita Skeeter is a yeah.
So Hermione comes out and gets this big old book, and she got it out of the library for a bit of light reading. I love her.
Light? Right. Which the way that Hermione reads, so she might not have if she was just reading it lightly, that maybe she just wasn't going through it verbatim, because typically when Hermione reads something, it's ingrained in her. Mm-hmm. So maybe she just didn't get to the section of Flamel yet because she was doing everything else, trying to find him elsewhere. But she reads this, and it's not the effect at all that she was expecting. And the first time I read it, I was the same way. Oh, what does that mean? Nicolas Flamel is, what is it? The only known maker of the
Sorcerer's Stone. And then she's like looking at Ron and Harry, seeing this big reaction, and they're like, huh?
Yeah, no big reaction.
So she reads to them, and I can picture her voice oh, come on, guys. And she's like, the ancient study of alchemy is concerned with making the Sorcerer's Stone a legendary substance with astonishing powers. The stone will transform any metal into pure gold. It also produces the elixir of life, which will make the drinker immortal. There have been many reports of the Sorcerer's Stone over the centuries, but the only stone currently in existence belongs to Mr. Nicolas Flamel, the noted alchemist and opera lover. Mr. Flamel, who celebrated his 665th birthday last year, enjoys a quiet life in Devon with his wife, Perenelle, 658.
So my first question, it talks about alchemy is concerned with the making of the Sorcerer's Stone. Is that the only thing in alchemy? Because Dumbledore helps Nicolas Flamel with alchemy, but he's already 600 years old, so obviously he's got the stone thing down.
Yeah.
So there's got to be more to alchemy than the Sorcerer's Stone, but the way that this passage makes it seem is that it's all about the Sorcerer's Stone.
I don't think it is. Alchemy is something that, you get some fringe people that try to study.
I don't know. I need to know more about alchemy, I guess.
Maybe we should look that up.
Yeah. But I like the very interesting fact of Nicolas Flamel loving opera, the noted alchemist and opera lover. Like, is he a noted opera lover as well?
I guess so. Because that's that, and then he lives in Devon with his wife. Those are the only personal facts they throw in this little passage about Flamel. So opera must be a big thing. Maybe he uses his sorcerer's stone to make gold and support the opera.
Oh, maybe. So my mom always points out that he is 665, and so by the time he's probably gets his affairs and is ready to destroy it, he'll be 666. And I don't know, there's some superstition around that number.
Huh.
So yeah. But so Hermione says, when they don't know what the stone is, honestly, don't you two read? But I mean, it's in one book out of all of these other books
that they would have come across. This is some old, big old library book.
Yeah. And honestly, out of all, I feel like I wasn't a reader before, but I feel like I was a little bit later in life. And even still, this is the only book that I've come across where there's been a sorcerer's stone or a philosopher's stone. So giving a little bit more credit to Ron and Harry there. At least more than Hermione is giving them.
So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's such Hermione's personality. I think it's really showing off her.
It is, yeah.
Her bookishness.
That's what she does, though. She has to show off. She's the smart one.
So they're basically saying, well, Snape wants it. Anybody would want this,
right?
Yeah. And then the next morning they have defense against the dark arts, and they're talking about treating werewolf bites. Werewolf bites are incurable.
Yeah. Also, they're talking about werewolf bites when in the third year they aren't even supposed to get to that chapter because it's at the back of the book. So it's why are you talking about that?
I know. It's interesting. Some of the things they talk about, they'll be learning about different things at different times. They were learning poison antidotes with Snape in the fourth year. And they also do them again in the sixth year with Slughorn. So I don't know. And defense against the dark arts, arguably, you could say it's because there are different teachers who are doing different things.
Consistency is not a good thing there.
And Lockhart doesn't actually teach them anything. He just talks about himself. Talks about who he wants to be and not who he is. But that's, we'll get there.
As far as treating the werewolf bites, I mean, technically they have to treat Bill for the werewolf bites, even though he wasn't,
So I guess. Anyway,
but
I just thought that was interesting because they talk about werewolves a couple of times.
Yeah.
They'll do it. They'll talk about it here. They talk about it because Lockhart has a werewolf book, Wandering with Werewolf.
Yeah.
We're going to that'll be our challenge for book 2. We're can you name all the Horcruxes? Can you name all the Lockhart books?
Probably not. There's 12 of them. At least.
Holidays with Hags, Wanderings with Werewolf, Voyage with a Vampire.
You could probably go through the whole alphabet of
Break with a Banshee.
Because it's so much alliteration. It's always what Hags, what is it with Hags?
A Holiday with Hags.
Holidays with Hags. And there's a whole bunch of The Year with the Yeti. They're all alliterated.
Yeah.
Name all 26 of Lockhart's books. A through Z.
Well, and then he has Magical Me and
Who Am I?
His Guide to Household Pests.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So he also, this is where Harry kind of announces, I'm still going to play. I'm not going to let my team down. I'm going to play. But he's nervous. And then he points out, we've talked about poor teaching. Potions is a weekly torture. And he's I don't know how Snape could know that we found out, but he has this sneaking suspicion that Snape can read minds.
Yes.
And this goes on, this comes up multiple times.
Well, and then we find out later that Snape is an occlumens,
yes.
or legitimens.
He's accomplished at both, I think.
Yeah. But the reading of the minds one is
occlumency. No.
Legitimacy.
Yes.
Occlumency is closing it off. But he's great at both.
Yes.
So like in the Fantastic Beasts thing, so here's a rabbit hole. In the Fantastic Beasts, like Queenie is a legitimate, like she can just like not turn it off pretty much. Do you think Snape is like similarly like that? Like is like an ingrained type of power that he just has?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess I don't think that he would be, because if he was, then he might have used that more to his advantage with Lily, I would think.
Yeah, because Snape messes that up so bad. Yeah.
So I guess he can't be, but he's just very good with skill for it. Kind of like, I guess, with the, what's that called? What Tonks is, metamorphosis. Like you could be born that, but then you can also learn how to do that, but it takes a lot of skill and time and talent.
Like use your wand and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Snape is reading his mind. He's following Harry too, or it seems to be like he's following him, which is kind of like, when we know what's going on, like it's really sweet. Like Snape is trying to look out for him, but not to Harry.
Harry, and again, not to us, because we only get Harry's perspective on this. So we're like, oh my gosh,
he's out to get him. Yeah.
So my next note is Ron and Hermione are practicing to hex a teacher.
Yeah. Well, Hermione already did catch him on fire.
Yes.
So
they're going to use the leg locker curse.
Right. Which she wasn't, what's the word? Like Malfoy kind of gave her that inspiration. She was inspired by Malfoy.
And I like how she's trying to coach Ron, and he's like, don't nag.
Yes.
And right there, I'm like, yep, those two are going to end up married.
So Hermione gets this inspiration from Malfoy. And then when we go back in the 6th book, or go forward in the 6th book, like Malfoy was getting inspiration from Hermione to do all of his nefarious things. So, and I kind of want to keep an eye out for how many times during the books do they kind of have that back and forth of getting ideas from each other, but not, because technically Hermione gets the idea for the coins from Voldemort to begin with. And then Malfoy gets the idea from Hermione about the coins, and then about the poison. And it's just interesting to see how that works.
I think if they weren't on opposite sides, I think they would have been good collaborators.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine the things, if Malfoy was on their side, what they could do? Like they'd be unstoppable, especially with his power, because he has connections. His family is connected. If he used it the right way.
And he's smart. He's incredibly smart. You have to think about like what he accomplishes. Like, first of all, he gets an outstanding in potions.
Yeah.
OWL. And he fixes that vanishing cabinet.
I would have loved, like, if they were to do like a fast forward, like, instead of the cursed child, like something with their kids, I would love to have seen like some sort of redemption where Draco is actually friends with the group now. Like he came over to the right side. He's made amends. They're all hanging out together. Like then they have to get into some sort of big thing. Their kids are in their thing. And I've even heard like fandoms where Dudley has a kid who ends up going to school.
Rowling said she almost wrote Dudley on the platform in that last book. I read that somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. So I feel like that, because I love that redemption story.
Could you imagine Petunia and Vernon?
Oh man.
Magical grandchild.
I think Petunia would probably love it, to be honest, because that's her grandchild. You know what I mean? And then I think that she would probably be in the same position of a more understanding of what her parents went through with Lily.
Yeah.
So speaking of Malfoy,
all of this worry is for nothing.
Right.
Because Dumbledore has
there.
come to watch Quidditch. Because Dumbledore has come to watch Quidditch.
Yes. It's so amazing how quickly Harry takes the liking to Dumbledore.
Yeah.
He's really only encountered him with the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. Aside from that, it's all hearsay from Hagrid and the chocolate card or the chocolate frog card.
Harry trusts Hagrid and Hagrid trusts Dumbledore.
Yeah.
And sometimes like a vote of confidence from another person. Like when I was selecting my babysitter, I was in kind of a pinch. I needed a babysitter. And I knew somebody who was taking their kids there. And it's somebody that I trust and I trust their judgment. So that's how we ended up. And, fast forward, my gosh, 3 years later.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic.
The amount of confidence is just like, and so suddenly, but then again, he is also 11 too. So, and Hagrid is the closest thing he's ever had to a trusted, caring adult.
Yeah.
So, I get that.
So Dumbledore's come to watch the match. We don't have to worry about Snape, but Malfoy shows up and I just wrote my notes. He's being a jerk.
Right. He's egging on Ron and Neville. So like, aren't they typically like the Gryffindors over here and the Slytherins are here?
But I think Malfoy's just sitting there just purely to needle them, like to be a jerk.
Like as if they're not going to do anything because there are people around and there are teachers. But I mean, they get to the point where they start muggle dueling.
Yes. It's very interesting to me. And I'm still new to the arena of raising boys. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they are a lot more handsy than like I ever was with my sisters. So I just had sisters. So I don't know if it's just more of a boy thing, like that. But they get in quite a few scuffles.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly like jumping on each other and trying to fight each other.
I think it is a bit more of a boy thing.
I don't know. Although Hermione does slap Malfoy.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part. One of them. That when the map insults Snape.
And, that's a good one too.
And book 6 is a kiss. Those are my favorite. Oh, I was like, is it Link or is it Reptar? I saw
Reptar. Link got shaved. So.
Oh, poor Linky.
Well, by a professional this time. So
okay, I'm sure he looks lovely.
It was a good thing this time. We had him scheduled and he was supposed to be shaved, and now it just needs to warm up. So, because normally when the spring rolls around, we give him his summer shave.
He's so pretty though. So Ron just jumps on Malfoy. And Neville tries to take on Crabbe and Goyle. So go Neville.
Yes.
Neville is very brave. I feel like the books portray Neville as this coward, and he's not.
I think that they try to show a little bit of him, like, because it does take, like, he hesitates, but he does try to help out his friend and goes in and jumps the fight. And it's 2-on-1.
Yeah.
Like, he takes on 2 people
who are big kids.
Yeah. So there's some bravery in that. So I think the movies do a worse job.
I think the movies take like one characteristic of each person. And they like, I don't like the way they portray Ron.
No, they really undercut Ron. That's probably the worst. That's probably the biggest injustice in the movies.
Movie Ron is not the same, but then movie Harry is perfect golden boy.
Mm-hmm.
She's not, and I think we discussed that. We're getting really close. We're getting pretty close to movie time.
Yes.
So they're at the Quidditch match, which only lasts 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's got to be really boring if you're a spectator.
I know.
Like, it's probably exciting, and then you're like, oh, now like.
But you think about like the Quidditch World Cup really didn't last that long either.
Right. And George hits a bludger at Snape. So, come on. You're trying to do stuff that doesn't take points off. And yet, like, that's one of the first things that he does.
I wondered about that. So, like, Snape just awarded Hufflepuff a penalty because George had hit a bludger at him. Was it intentional? Was it accidental?
I mean, knowing George, well, if it was Fred, I would say it was definitely intentional. George, I think you got a 50-50 shot. But Snape was able to get out of the way. And even when Harry zooms by him, like he has just like a second's notice before he moves. So he's got to be pretty good on a broom. Do you think Snape ever played Quidditch?
I wonder.
And that might be.
He would have been in the picture, though. He would have been. Well, it depends on when Regulus joined the team. But Harry wasn't looking for Snape.
Right. And Snape also might not have been on, in the same year, or maybe he was only on it in his 7th year.
Because how much younger is Regulus than Sirius?
I don't know. Do they ever say? I don't know that they ever say. We might have to just get there when we get to that section, because they might say. But Snape, that might have been part of his reason, because Sirius does say he thinks he was jealous of Snape, or jealous of James.
Quidditch match is over. They won. They've overtaken Slytherin.
Yes. Hermione hugs Parvati. I feel like that's a weird out of character thing. Yeah.
But I think she might would have hugged Ron, but Ron's rolling around on their seats with Malfoy.
Yeah.
So it's all over. And there's Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Nice job. Glad to see you're not dwelling on that mirror.
I feel like that's a really weird Dumbledore moment, though, too.
And Dumbledore's just there and then gone. He just kind of
yeah,
flips.
Congratulations, Harry. Glad to see you're not looking at that mirror. Bye. Not even a bye, just gone. It's a weird moment.
It is. It struck me as weird, but it is interesting in character for it's in character for Dumbledore, because Dumbledore's a little quirky.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. So a little while later, Harry's trying to put his broom in the broom shed. So he does keep his broom in the broom shed sometimes. His firebolt is always in his dormitory, though.
Yeah, because I was thinking, because even the Nimbus is a pretty good broom. Mm-hmm. It's the best of the best right now.
Why would you broom shed?
Right, because anybody could get in there, right?
I don't know.
Or even if it's only people who are on Quidditch teams, still, then anybody on the Quidditch team could go and
Malfoy could go steal his broom.
Yeah, unless they have a separate, a Gryffindor broom shed. And then, but still, then if Wood wanted to, he would take his Nimbus. He could probably take his Nimbus for a stroll at any time. But you would probably assume that
if they're on your team.
If they're on your team, yeah. But then could Quirrell have messed with his broom prior? Or do you need some sort of permission to go in, aside from putting them away, have Professor Hooch or something? Madam Hooch? She's not a professor, right?
She's Madam. So, but hang on, how do they transition? Because it's an interesting. So he's thinking again. He's leaning against the door of the shed. He's looking at the castle, and Gryffindor's in the lead. He's just so excited and so happy.
Yes.
He'd shown Snape. And speaking of Snape.
Yeah.
This hooded figure is walking very quickly towards the forest, clearly not wanting to be seen.
Yep, there he is.
But he recognized Snape's walk, which I think is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So of course the logical thing to do is let's follow him.
Right. Oh, Harry.
So he's circling the trees. And this, my note is Harry is incredibly agile. I couldn't land in a tree without making a crash. I would probably be Hermione and not fly in that broom, period.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't have his invisibility cloak on him, obviously, because that would have been the easiest thing to do, probably, is just go invisible and follow him.
So have you found out how to get past that beast of Hagrid's yet? And Quirrell's just stuttering and Severus. Oh. You can almost see Quirrell like shaking and cowering, and
because he asks, I don't know why you wanted to meet here. So it is kind of weird that Snape does want to meet him in the woods. And he says it's because he wants to keep things private. But why doesn't he just use Muffliato?
Yeah, right.
That's his spell.
But again, the last thing we hear is that you don't want me as your enemy.
Mm-hmm. And it's true, though, because Snape is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, like, you don't want to cross him.
Oh, you might lose an ear.
Yeah.
And I like how they mentioned that students aren't supposed to know about the stone.
Right. So it doesn't even matter. Like, Neville didn't have to give him the card. They didn't even need to figure out who Flamel was. They didn't need to spend any of that time. All Harry needed to do was follow him down. Yeah. Because he straight out says the Sorcerer's Stone, not just the stone, but the Sorcerer's Stone.
So they're like, okay, what's the Sorcerer's Stone? And then Hermione would be like, oh, I know what that is.
Yep. But Quirrell doesn't give us anything.
No.
He's just stammering, and Snape is interrupting him. And the only time we might actually be able to know what he says, an owl hoots, and Harry is like almost falls over. So we don't get anything aside from Snape, and it's all from Harry's perspective of him being the bad guy.
And so Ron's excited because he gave Malfoy a black eye, and they won.
Yes. And
Fred and George have stole cakes and stuff from the kitchens, so they're gonna go have a party. Mm-hmm. So they are having a party this time. Yeah. Harry's like, never mind that. Got something more important. So he tells Ron and drags him into a classroom. And I like that, like, already they're first years and they still like Peeves.
Right. Yeah.
No Peeves. Okay, good. We're good. Because that will, they say that several times, like when they go into a deserted classroom, like they check for Peeves.
Yeah.
Peeves could be in there writing rude words on the blackboard.
Yeah. Or sometimes he's like on the ceiling or something like that. They always got to keep an eye out for him.
So I love Hermione and Ron's the last couple lines of the book. So you mean the stone's only safe as long as Quirrell stands up to Snape? And then Ron finishes up with, it'll be gone by next Tuesday. So that just cracked me up.
So it's interesting that they think that Snape is, like, Harry says, he mentioned something about Quirrell's hocus pocus. I reckon there are other things guarding the stone apart from Fluffy. Loads of enchantments, probably. And Quirrell would have done some anti-dark spells that Snape needs to break through. It seems like they've already forgotten that Snape fancies the dark arts. And so therefore would probably have like all of those types of, all of that kind of information anyway. And they know that Quirrell is a joke teacher. Like, nobody has confidence in him. So if they put those two things together, then they could probably figure out that getting around Quirrell's thing is probably not actually accurate. That's probably not on. And considering that he does just throw a troll in there. So, but I think we'll get to that a little bit in the next chapter with when Hagrid tells us what's guarding the stone. So I have one more note, and that is the way that they just leave the woods. He threw his cloak over his head and started out of the clearing. It was almost dark now, but Harry could see Quirrell standing quite still as though he was petrified. And then it just goes into when they're in the common room and Hermione squealing, Harry, where have you been? So what happens? Like, who leaves first, Harry or Quirrell? Because I want to know, does Quirrell go back into the woods to try to find the unicorn to get that blood? Or if, I don't know. I mean, if Harry left, would Quirrell have seen or sensed or heard him leaving?
They didn't hear him approach though. He was very quiet.
Yeah, so I guess he might not have heard him leave. So I would assume that Harry would have had left first.
He probably wants to
Because
follow.
I'll bet Quirrell went deeper into the woods after that. So for the audiobooks, there were not many big ones. Each other versus one another, all the way to versus all the way up to. When Neville hops in, the people fell about laughing or fell over laughing at him. Choked versus choked out. When Harry reads the back of the chocolate frog card in the audiobooks, he calls him Professor Dumbledore, but it's just Dumbledore in the books. At some point talks about the Philosopher's Stone, from ever dying versus ever dying. So they just took out the word from. Pitch your field. Changing rooms, locker rooms, are versus is. So there's a lot of toward versus towards, lent and leaned. I don't usually do those because that's in all of them, but there was a lot in this one. There always is in the Quidditch ones because they're very directional.
Yes.
There was one, I'm trying to think what it was that was 7 years. Because when I wrote these notes, I was like, I'll know what that is. But now I don't remember. Oh, when the Quidditch Cup and how long the Slytherins have had it. And in the books, it is 7 years, but in the audiobooks, it is nearly 7 years. So I don't know if there's a difference between that. I wouldn't think so, but it's weird that they added the qualifier nearly. And I guess the biggest one of all is the title of this, and what's used throughout is the Sorcerer's Stone versus the Philosopher's Stone.
I knew that would be one.
Yeah.
I can guarantee there's
if you don't know that by now. All right. Well, that's our perspective. Let us know yours in the comments below. Before we go, we would like to thank our editor, Alan, our families, our listeners. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and support. Until next time, stay safe, keep faith. Good night.